Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Namaste and thank you so much.
Namaste.
Thank you. That was lovely.
I would say, in the past, I struggled a lot with both of them, like my self awareness and probably more my self assurance. But I think now I'm in a place where my self awareness is high. I would say I would definitely give myself maybe 100%, if that being, having a little humility for sure. But I definitely have I definitely have the awareness of everything that I do and think and feel. But then if my self assurance kind of can maybe move around depending on what phase I'm in, what situations I'm in, my job, my roles, my responsibilities. Because sometimes I do struggle still with trusting myself and having the confidence to go about what I'm doing in a way that I have faith in myself. But for sure, it's come a long way. I mean, I think I have a lot more self assurance than I did in the past because of my self awareness. So
Perfect start. I've just scribbled all of that down. What about you, Kranti?
Okay, so I like to tell you about my self assurance and self awareness. Yes, in the beginning, you always struggle for your self assurance because it takes a little time to trust your own gut feelings, your power of trusting. And once you start trusting your own powers, you have it. You are a powerful person. Once you trust that, self awareness comes along with it. So it's like you cannot bring the revolution to the outside world. You have to bring the revolution first inside. It's like once you bring the inside revolution, is automatically the outer revolution is happening. When you go around surrounding us, people are getting inspired by you. So the first you have to work on your self assurance, bring the revolution within you, and then it comes automatically it convert into the self awareness.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's fascinating, both of those answers, really. And obviously, I've done 3 of these recordings now, and when asking the same question to each set of people, nobody's mentioned trust. Whereas that was basically the first 2 things both of you said right off the gun. It's just like this trust thing was perhaps the first word you said alongside self-assurance. Do you have any idea why you both might have said that so instinctively? Does a thought come to mind about why that was so important?
I think the first word that came to my mind was trust, because self-assurance is all about having the ability to assure yourself rather than relying on the outside sources or external validation. And I think because of that, you really have to have this level of trust, because there's going to be so many people telling you oh, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, you should be doing this or doing it this way. But it's like when you have this self-assurance that you're doing what's right for you and you're on your own personal journey, then it's almost like you trust yourself before you trust anyone else. And that's what it takes to have that self-assurance, is having faith and trust in yourself and in your own discernment. And that's probably why I thought of the word trust first, is because sometimes I do have a hard time trusting myself and my intuition. And it comes with putting myself in situations I've never been in before and doing it and being wow, I can do this. So, and for Kranti, maybe let's hear what she has to say.
Yeah. So I felt it that trusting yourself is the most important part, because most of the time in outside world, there are lots of things are constantly going on. Nowadays, we have more options. Okay. And more desires, more options are there. And because of that, sometimes you lose your own path where you want to go, because there are many ways. You can go to the left, you can go to the right. Somebody says, oh, Kranti, Cusco is nice. Constantly when we are traveling, there are lots of desires are on the way. You know that very well. Yeah? So constantly these are things are going on in our life. But once you trust, once you understand your own nature of your mind, okay, what is it? And once you stick with it, it moves. You don't have to get distracted. So first it starts within yourself. So for that, you have to trust yourself.
Yes, yeah. Again, two lovely answers. The reason for my asking that question was that in the last podcast, when I framed the same question, one of the brilliant music teachers and performers that I was talking to put it back on me and said, well, it's a slightly definitional thing. How would you define self-awareness and self-assurance? And I then turned it back on him and said, well, for the sake of this conversation at this time, I'm happy with whatever you feel, however you would define them, because that lends itself to the conversation. But then obviously since recording, I was like, well, I probably should have a definition for both of those things if I'm going to claim that it's kind of this mission I'm on to try and help people with those things. So on one of our many long bus journeys, a couple of weeks ago, I was sitting there trying to think about it. And my one for self-assurance was complete contentment without attachment to or dependence on any conditions. And I then obviously framed a load of different conditions that people tend to rely on for their sense of self-assurance. And I've not written the word trust in there at any point. Obviously, to some degree, it's included within that sense of contentment, because maybe your own personal contentment, speaking outwardly to you both, is encapsulated by this sense of personal trust. But I was like, oh crap, maybe I need the word trust in there because it seems to be key to these very wise, happy people that, and I've not got it in there at all. But to say that out loud to you, does that sound like a definition of self-assurance that resonates, that contentment without attachment piece?
I think that resonates because for me, it's like, when you think contentment without attachment, I think like contentment without attachment to like other people's, expectations or judgments of myself. Because a lot of the time it's really, we do things because we think that other people want us to do them, or we think we should do them. So it's like, we're not content until we are successful in the eyes of other people, or we make people happy, or we, but it's like at the end of the day, can I be content without having that attachment to have approval from other people, but just that like approval and trust and confidence in myself? That's the only like thing that I should be focusing on to bring me that contentment. I think that makes sense.
Did that example of other people's expectations come to your mind because that's maybe the bit that you're most attached to in your own self-assurance, or that's the bit you find most difficult? Is that why that came to mind, do you think?
Wow. Well, no, I think it's also like just the expectations, of that like society puts on us, like depending on the culture we grew up in. And so, yeah, I think, and a lot of those expectations are based on like other people and not ourselves. So I think now, because I'm living a life that's really, not a lot of people are doing, traveling, teaching yoga, and it's like you have to have this sense of like self-assurance because no one else, it's not a lot of people take this path, you know? Yeah. So yeah, that's what I thought of. I thought of almost like the expectations of other people. And I can say that, in the past and even now, sometimes I still think about like, oh, what's my family going to think? So it's normal and it's a part of being human and being on this journey. So,
yeah.
I would like to tell you about the expectation which I learned in Vedanta. So when I travel, I literally follow this philosophy. I try not to preach, but I follow myself. So wherever I travel, I go without any expectations. Literally, even I don't search anything. I never Google it. So for example, when I came in Peru, one of my friend, Indian friend, she's working here in Peru. And she asked me, where you are working? I say, I don't know where I'm working. I have to Google it where I'm working. And, that's the way. And then they say, oh, you're working in Tarapoto, example. In Tarapoto, there's a Moyobamba, is the city. And I got to know everything. But then I learned that what happens with the expectation. So before coming to Tarapoto, I was traveling with my two friends. One is from India. I met them in Senegal, and one is from Spain. So we both are three of us traveling to Cusco, and we did it Arequipa, Punto, Machu Picchu, and somehow one of my students, few years back, 3 or 4 years back, she told me about the 7 colors of mountains, and I just said, okay, 7 colors of mountains. And somehow my both friends said that, Kranti, we cannot go to the 7 colors of mountains because it's high altitude. We cannot walk, Kranti, blah, blah, blah. I said, okay, and this is the way I always travel. God plan is perfect. If it comes on my way, I'm going to accept it. If not, I'm not going to have any regrets or any attachment to, oh, I have to go to the 7 colors of mountains.
Yeah.
And somehow it really happened, the story that while coming from the Machu Picchu, so there are 4 C's. So there was one guy was sitting next to us, and he was just talking about his traveling plans and blah, blah, blah. He did this. And then he told me that tomorrow I'm going to 7 colors of mountains. And my both friends said that Kranti, you have a wonderful opportunity. If you like to go, you should grab it. And I said, okay, I grabbed it. And it happens, it's on my way. But just imagine if I have expectation coming to Peru and going only the 7 colors of mountains, example. So what is going to happen? Maybe I get Machu Picchu, I get Liquitos, I get Cusco, Arequipa, Punto, Moyobamba, okay, many places. But my mind is always agitated. Yeah. I didn't go to the 7 colors of mountain. And I'll not appreciate what I got total in my Peru trip. So this is the way our expectations, it's always, we don't appreciate what we get it because our mind is always stuck with that expectation. So I travel without any expectation, and God plan is perfect. Yeah. This is the 2 philosophies I travel.
Amen.
I think that expectation piece is something that I don't know if I was lucky enough to get told as a child. But when your parents or grandparents say that, have low expectations, have no expectations, as a kid, you're like, what? Well, that doesn't seem like very fun. That doesn't seem like very enjoyable, or you're curtailing my own excitement here about this one thing, how dare you do that? But in hindsight, obviously, it's extremely wise and a thoughtful thing to say, because, it will betray your presence and this image you affect in your mind. No place can really ever live up to that, so you're destroying it at the same time. But just to touch on something else you've said there, Kranti, you've used the frames of like trusting in God's plan, or having this kind of trust that if I'm going to go, it's going to work out. Like things will just be okay, regardless of whether I really steer them or whether I just let go entirely. I can guarantee that there will be people listening to this podcast that will find themselves at the other end of that spectrum, where they feel that every situation in life is one that they have to control a lot. They have to be very aware. They have to be thinking ahead all of the time, because otherwise, life doesn't feel very comfortable. And obviously, you're in a place where you've got a great deal of comfort, just letting go. What would you say to that person that was trying to control and steer everything versus just trusting?
Yeah. Okay. So I always tell people that everybody wants to be happy either in the future or in the past. Nobody wants to be happy in this moment. Okay. Mm-hmm. So everybody says that, oh, I'll be happy if I have my own yoga school, example, as a yoga teacher, example. And some people say, oh, I'll be happy when I get married. Oh, I'll have a nice house on the island. I'll be happy. So everybody's constantly their attention in the future or in the past, because there's so much space. But the present moment is the most important moment. Okay. And I feel like that once you have that trust, it doesn't matter. You have to trust only on the God. Okay, you can trust on the universe. You can trust on the 5 elements. There are many things you can just have a faith and trust. And God has a perfect plan. And because everything happens in your life is because there is some reason why you don't respect that and why you want. So I always say you're going to always get what you deserve, not what you desire.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, do you have a follow up to that, Alina? Or
Yeah, I mean, I like, I agree. For me, like, from my experience, I would just say that there's so many situations that I look at in the past, like just in the past few years, where I'm like, wow, if that one thing didn't happen, and even in that moment in the past, I thought it was like the end of the world. Like, I thought, how am I going to move on from this? And I was like, but if that thing didn't happen, I wouldn't be where I am right now. So I always just look at it. It's like this like chain of events that it's like, nothing ever is going to last forever, no matter how good it is or how bad it is. It's just like our own judgments that we put on it. So it's kind of keeping that in mind and telling yourself every day that, you know, every little thing is going to bring you where you're supposed to go. And it's all, and this is really cliche when I say this, but it is about the journey, and it's not about one final place that you're going to go. It's about everything that you're going to learn on the way, and just trusting that, you might fail, you might have to try again multiple times, you might have to change your path completely, and it's all, as Kranti says, it's all a part of God's plan. And I think it's perfect, because that's how you learn and you grow, and you see what you want and what you need.
yeah. No, there's an unbelievable amount there. But the thing I want to touch on most is, I felt it keenly in my own life too, as I've engaged more and more with meditation and, Stoic appreciations of like what it means to be in the moment, and, more Buddhist or, different schools of thought. But I now see the present moment as this unbelievable refuge and sanctuary from anything else that, all of my suffering is by looking too far, into the future or too far into the past. So if I can be here, it feels like the most serene, safe, powerful space in the world. But then I know that when Mara joined you in Moyobamba, and I'm sure you see it in every school you've done before her group or afterwards, that everybody has this different place that they're on their kind of presence journey. Some people will lean into the meditation and will be there and will enjoy it. Some people they'll really be kind of antsy and really struggle with that. How do you coach someone through being at a difficult place on that kind of present mindedness to a really strong, calm place? What in a practical terms?
All right. So I always tell when the meditation starts, guys, enjoy the process. Don't get attached to the outcome, what is going to come.
Yeah.
And I always tell, don't think with the meditation you're going to have a peace, you're going to have a joy. I use this word, but that's the way it goes. Sometimes you're going to look your own shit, what is going on in your life. Okay, sorry to say this, but
no, that's fine. Swearing is allowed.
Maybe you're like angry, you have a shame, you have a guilt, you're constantly worried, agitated. There are many things constantly going on, and mind is always, if I tell you right now, don't think about the monkey, you're thinking only about the monkeys. That's the way our mind is. So just enjoy the process, and whatever outcome comes, that is meant for that meditation. So I just did the meditation, and many people came and said that, Kranti, I'm feeling very angry right now. I said, this is the part of the process. Let it come, because what happens, the conscious mind and subconscious mind. So for example, if Mara tells me, hey, Kranti, you're a very good teacher. And then if suddenly my ego gets like a balloon, and Alina says, Kranti, you still have a long way, I don't think so. Whatever you preach, you don't follow, blah, blah, blah. And then suddenly I dump in my subconscious mind. So what happened in the subconscious mind, you dump many things. Sometimes, like, okay, example, the situation of the corona. And many people were angry with the situation and they dump in their subconscious mind because whatever going on in the world. So all these, the many activity which we cannot handle it, we cannot manage to handle, then we dump it in the subconscious mind. And then what happens? Subconscious mind has to take care of your all internal organs and they have overload. And then maybe you start having some heart problem or asthma or respiratory problem or diabetes and blah, blah, blah. So with the meditation, actually, whatever things you suppress inside, okay, in your subconscious mind started coming up. Okay? And once you take it out, once you just imagine every day you clean your house, you take your dirt out every day. It's like every day you're cleaning.
Yeah.
Okay? Your spiritual body, your mental body, your energetic body, okay? You're cleaning that body. And then whatever comes is a part of that process. So now, yes, many times I told also Alina, whenever I do meditation, yes, sometimes I feel very peaceful, sometimes joyful, and sometimes I just feel very tired, or I feel I have a lots of inertia still. So these are the things I experience.
Yeah. I just want to say also, like, you want to add
one?
No,
No.
because you made me think. So also, like, another thing that I say to my students a lot is just like coming into the mindset of observer. So it's like, that's a big part of these practices is like not identifying with our thoughts and our emotions and what we're experiencing, but just simply just observing them. As Kranti says, it's like some days you're going to feel peace, you're going to feel bliss. Some days you're going to feel so agitated, you're not going to want to stay in a meditation. Some days you're going to feel really emotional. So it's just about observing it. And I think that's the resistance a lot of people have with doing meditation, especially like a meditation that's different than what they've normally done, is they don't know, they're scared what's going to come up, and they don't think it's going to be easy for them to like have no thoughts. But it's like the point of meditation is not to clear your mind, it's to observe what you're experiencing, and so it's like just not attaching and not identifying with the thoughts, but just observing them, because the only way to kind of release and to get through something is to feel it and to really like hear it and experience it. So that's for me what meditation is. Like, it's not about clearing my mind completely, and if that happens, awesome, but it's just about like actually listening to what's going on up there, because we so easily distract ourselves. So it's like we actually don't know what we're feeling or we're thinking.
Yeah, which in my mind raises a similar question to the one I just framed, in terms of like some people like yourselves are very trusting that life will play out in a certain way, a way that you can accept and embrace. Some people feel like they have to steer. Acceptance it falls in a similar way. Some people struggle with acceptance because it's as if they're condoning what's happened. If it's like they're pretending to be happy with what's gone on in the past. Again, how would you, or do you manage and deal with people who aren't on your level of awareness of the power of acceptance and more objective observance of your own life and mind? How do you kind of like shape those people so that they are better observers and acceptors?
I always say people, whatever happening in your life at this moment is because of your choice. Okay, keep talking about intellect lots of time. So many of the time we don't use our intellect. Intellect means having the ability to take the decision. Okay, so mind is constantly, the mind is like all the five senses are constantly taking them out. Okay, so but the intellect controls that five senses. The control the mind, and through the mind you can control your five senses. So whatever happening in your life, if you are miserable at this moment, it's because of your choice. If you're peaceful at this moment, it's because of your choice. Only we don't use the intellect, and all the consequences we get it along with it is because of me. It's nobody's responsible for it, because I chose. So for example, I took a decision to come to Peru. I took a decision to come to Moyobamba. So whatever consequences happen, I am responsible for it, nobody else. So even relationship also, I chose to be with this XYZ person. Yeah. And so when that XYZ person is there, so all the people like to accept only the good part in that person and they like to change the other side. But no, you have to accept the both, good and bad. You
Yeah.
cannot cut one half. For example, if I like Alina, I have to accept Alina with her good and with her bad. I cannot cut Alina and just take her good things and leave her bad. So this is a way, and it comes eventually starts coming. It really took such a long time for me to digest these things. I understand it's not that easy. Saying is very easy. Following it's take time, but you take conscious effort. Yeah, you bring that awareness constantly. You are alert and aware, and once you start bringing that awareness, it start coming. It becomes the part of your body. It becomes a part of your cells. It becomes the part of your own breath.
Mm. And it's simultaneously kind of quite an alarming, arresting idea as it is an empowering one. Is like, well, what do you mean I'm the person that's, through my choices or perspectives are making myself unhappy? You can look at that and go, oh no, that's not good. But equally, if it is you, then you're the one with the power to discard and reframe everything that's happened. It's quite it's a stoic idea, I think, that Marcus Aurelius said. My anxiety is mine, so therefore I have the power to discard it. And it's something I think about quite a lot. That it just exists in here. So if I can reframe a situation and then kind of take some breaths and discard it, then I find it unreasonably helpful a lot of the time. But again, I think we're slightly more further down on this journey than most people. Some people would find it, they wouldn't want to accept the idea that they were the person making themselves miserable, because they'd see it as this other person or this situation or this trauma or this thing. And they play a role in dictating our mindset. But again, it's quite a journey to go through, from really attributing your misery and suffering to something else and realizing that ultimately it manifests in here. And this is a space that you control.
Yeah. One thing last I want to tell, that the one Swamiji always tells, and I appreciate that what he said. Everybody comes to me and they talk about it. I have a problem with my wife. I have a problem with my kids. I have a problem with my job. But nobody comes and tells me I have a problem with me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So actually, it's problem with you because you don't know how to assist it. Yeah? So, for example, all the dualities, all the human beings are actually suffering or they're miserable because of the dualities. When the summer is hot, they like to be cold. They complain. Okay, oh, the summer is too hot, too hot, too hot. They want summer should be like a winter, winter should be like a summer, and rainy season should be like a dry. Right? It's not going to be possible. Just imagine I change my perspective. Yeah, it's the summer. I accept. It's the summer. Yes, I'm going to feel hot. It's normal. I'm going to feel sweat. Okay, I'm going to get a little bit irritated. Sometimes it happens because weather does a strong impact, that the weather has a strong impact on the human beings, But once I know how to assist with the heat, then my life is easy. The same with love and hate. These are the same. When you are in love, everything is looks so beautiful. You cannot sleep. You know that when we are in love. And the same person, after a few years, we hate somehow, okay? And the same person, we start talking about, oh, he is like that, he's this and that. The same person, when you're in love, he's the most amazing man of my life. And after a few years, oh, this man is not right for me. No, it's just the way I look at it. Yeah. So once I know how to assist with all the dualities, my life will be easy, and I'll have a more peace. And that peace comes within. I cannot expect the peace from Alina or from Mara or Carolina. I cannot expect that. It should come within me.
Yeah. I'm going to add something, because I just taught a lecture last week about the 5 kleshas, and And the kleshas, it's like in yoga philosophy, it's basically the things that bring us suffering, you know, in this existence. And it's funny because I've always known this and I've learned about it, but like I've just refreshed my memory while teaching, because of course when you teach, you know, you're learning. But it's like the raga and dvesha. And I was like, couldn't remember the names, but raga is like our attachment, and then dvesha is repulsion. So raga essentially is like when we can't get the things that we desire, and you know, when we can't get the things that we are attached to, we suffer. And then raga is the opposite. So raga is when we can't avoid the things that either bring us discomfort or pain, then we suffer. So it's like, you know, it's those two together. It's like when we can't get that pleasure, and when we can't experience bliss and peace and happiness and joy, we make ourselves suffer because we think that we should be experiencing that. But then also on the other end of the spectrum, we try to avoid the things that bring us discomfort and pain, or any type of thing that we don't want to feel, whether, like she said, it's the weather, it's too hot today, it's raining, or, you know, something. We just find a way to complain. And it's like, because it's something that's not bringing us pleasure, so we make ourselves suffer. So like, it's basically what Kranti was saying, is we constantly give our power away. And it's like our peace is not, it shouldn't be relying on what is happening outside of us, because in that case, we're never going to find peace. The peace happens within us, and then everything else, quote unquote, falls into place, because nothing is ever going to fall into place. Life is always changing and moving. We just have to like find peace with it. And it's like, I say this as someone who is also on the path, and it's like, I'm not, you know, I'm learning, and I'm constantly being met with situations that I have to like ask myself, like, okay, Alina, you can either suffer or you can practice what you preach. And like, I've been in those situations so many times, and you know, I'm not perfect in any way, and these are things like that I constantly remind myself of, especially now that I just taught this lecture. It's like it's a constant refresher of telling ourselves it's so easy to blame things on other people. It's so easy to play victim, but that doesn't change anything. It doesn't change anything until we like take responsibility, accountability, and have that self-assurance to actually like find peace finally within ourselves, and stop giving the power to anything outside of us.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely going to come back to the idea of suffering, because it was quite influential in the sets of more yoga specific questions that I've prepared. But to that idea that, you know, in the moments that test you, Alina, and I'm sure the same applies to you, Kranti, you have these phrases or thoughts or mantras that you will just use as little prompts to get you to think more clearly. Is the one you just said a super common one for you, or do you have a ever more common, like, you know, just little prompts and pattern disrupts that you say to yourself?
I think for me, so I'm a very like intuitive, like I'm very, you know, I'm a very flowy person. So I think I don't always think with like my logical mind. I'm more like on my feminine side. So I feel for me, it's different every time. And a lot of the time, it's not always like a word or a thought that gets me out of it. It's more of like a practice. Like, you know, either I have to stop what I'm doing and like just like listen, like I said, like making that space to like observe what I'm feeling, come back to my breath. And also for me, a big thing is like coming back to my body, because a lot of the time we spend so much time in our head. Like I'm speaking for myself. I spend so much time in my head and not enough time like actually in my body. So I in those moments when I'm just like letting my whatever suffering or thoughts, emotions control me, I just kind of have to step back and either step into my body or like my breath or come into a practice. And it's different every time, but it's not so much like a word or a phrase that I use. It's more practice. Like, yep. It's a practice, because that's the way you kind of apply it, is by practice. And some days I'm better and faster at like getting myself out of that place and into the parasympathetic nervous system. And some days it's harder, you know, it's all a practice. And we don't practice to be perfect. We practice just so that we can handle things better and get stronger. So
yeah, we handle the things with more awareness, with more alertness.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I love that. Even the moniker of just stop and listen as a pattern interrupt, as a way of settling down. I think there's a some kind of quote from the famous mathematician Pascal, who said that, you know, the bulk of human suffering could be avoided if everybody could sit in a room in silence for 2 minutes. You know, because people don't come back to that bit of sanctuary that you can get by just stopping, listening,
Mm-hmm.
and then suddenly whatever was really aggressively getting your emotions het up moments ago before suddenly just dissipates. You've just let some of that energy, those vibrations subside, you know, and that's you've not had to say anything to yourself. You've just had to be aware enough to stop. And it's I love that. Even that is super powerful.
Yeah, and it ties into everything you've been saying, you know, like it just takes that awareness. And like I was saying, like just to be the observer rather than attaching to what is happening, and just like observing it. And then from that place, you find more self-assurance, you find more confidence and trust. And it's easier when you're not distracted, because like, you know, we're just always doing, and we're not actually like feeling or listening. Yeah.
Be a witness. I always say, be a witness.
Yeah, and that's been the idea. You've both touched on it now, between the be a witness thought and the observer thought, Alina, that you touched on earlier. And that was literally the first thing that was mentioned in our first podcast. I was talking to two brilliant kind of creative designers, and that if you're a designer or indeed performing in any space, there's this issue where you sometimes struggle to separate yourself from the work, you know. So if the work is good and the ideas are plentiful, then, you know, you feel great. If you know the work is poorly received, or you just can't get a good idea out of yourself, then your self-assurance suffers. But being really good at seeing your condition and your performance as one thing, and yourself as something that is largely separate, and using that vantage point of, you know, the separation to be super interested and curious and objective about this thing that is the work and the performance. That's such a huge hack in terms of feeling better, having greater awareness, feeling calmer. But, you know, it occurred to me at the time when we were discussing it that there really isn't an established framework for how you could do that super sustainably, super often. You know, if you've got to a point where you're a great meditator or super mindful or more kind of theologically kind of aware, then you might have some prompts or some enough awareness of your own body to be able to do it and look at things. But most kids, for example, growing up where I grew up, or at a time where we grew up, nobody has sat you down and go, okay, so you are not your work, and there's a way of separating from this so you can see it more clearly, and that you don't destroy your sense of self-assurance at the same time. Nobody has ever said that. But if there was a framework and a set of rules around that, then that would be huge for my mission of getting people to be more self-aware and self-assured. So I've spent some time thinking about it, but no, I bet you have a bit of a take on that too, just like how you can be more sustainably both, you know, super present, but also detached from yourself, as if viewing it yourself externally.
I think basically the main thing is just not attaching your identity to the things that you do, because like a lot of the time people, you know, they'll ask us like, oh, what do you do? What do you do? And we're like, I'll respond, oh, I'm a yoga teacher, or I'm this, I'm this. And this is also something I still kind of I'm struggling with, because it's, you know, it's the journey, but it's like, instead of like responding with what I do as who I am, it's like, oh, I'm not a yoga teacher, I just teach yoga, but that's not who I am. Like it's not, it doesn't, that what I do, it doesn't really define my identity or who I am as a person. So I think it's just about it's like using a verb, you know, it's like I'm not this, this is just what I do to make money, or this is just what I do to share my passion. But at the end of the day, like to my core, my identity is not defined by what I do or how much money I make or how successful I am. So I think that's the main thing that people in this like generation or society struggle with, is like, you know, our identity is based so much on like our career and our roles that we play.
So I feel somehow from the childhood we taught we have to be successful, we have to get education, we have intelligence. Okay, that's more important, but not the intellect. And intelligence and intellect has a different way. Huh?
Yeah.
Intelligence right now you just Google it that what is panchakosha, you will get all the information. And intellect means you don't know how this panchakosha is working on you, the five bodies. It's like that. Intellect means you real the knowledge. So what I found is that somehow whatever knowledge we have it, the 98% is borrowed knowledge. So if I ask you, Richard, where are you from? You will say, I'm from, where are you from?
No, yeah, Cambridge in England, yeah.
Okay, England. Where is England?
In Europe.
Okay, where is Europe?
Yeah, the west of in the mid, notionally the middle of the world, which of course is
where is the world? Just imagine I'm from alien, like I'm from the another planet. I don't know what is world, what is planet. So one point it will come to you that you don't know the answer. You don't have the answer. You don't have the answer. So the 98% the knowledge we are borrowed from the people, but that 2% knowledge is the most important knowledge. Why I'm getting angry, why I'm getting agitated, why I'm searching the happiness outside, which is within me. So even that's one of the nice example. I really like it that Osho said about it. Just imagine there are few kids, if I put them in the jungle, sure, they're not going to learn the language. Just imagine there are few kids from when they start learning the language. Before that, if I put them together, they're not going to learn the language. They cannot speak with each other. But sure, when they get the puberty, they have a sexual feelings. They know what is anger, what is happiness. So these are the emotions. And if you look at it, that we actually have a problem with the relationship. With our own mind, we have a problem sometimes. Our own mind can be powerful and our own mind can destroy us. So we have all these problems, but somehow that knowledge, the essential knowledge, the truth which is within us, we are searching it outside, but nobody is giving that knowledge when we are a kid. So everybody say, oh, don't get angry. But from where this anger comes? When it comes, what can I do it for it? Nobody talks about it. Control your sexual desire, but from where it is coming? Okay. Well, so these authentic knowledge, I feel it that, and that's the way we actually do it as a teacher. As a teacher, we are telling that it's coming within us. So that's the way we try to explain how our own mind is playing the game. And if you want to control the mind, how you can use your own intellect. And that's the way we do it.
An interesting thought on that, to that end, has just come to mind. So say say you were staying, Alina, you were staying in Moyobamba and you were going to do another 2-week course, but instead of a load of 20-year-olds to, however old the oldest person was, they were all replaced with kind of, 5 to 10-year-olds. How much of your training of the mind or framing of emotions and behaviors do you think would change, or would the message be largely the same?
Wow, I like that question. So, I think that's really interesting, because I think as children, especially like at 5-year-olds, because that's the age before you're really kind of going to school and you're influenced by external, you still can't really make choices. Like you're still not super independent yet at that age. So I would say, like, as children, at that age, they have so much self-assurance, like they have so much confidence in themselves and who they are. And, like, they don't care how loud they are or who judges them. They're just so themselves. And this is something I also like when we talk about the chakras, like our lower chakras start to form at a really, really young age. So it's like if I was like talking to children, of course my delivery would be different because they just don't have an attention span, but like in a way that it's like, it's not about because I always like say in my classes, it's not about becoming something. Like it's not about changing yourself and learning something. It's about unbecoming. Like it's about kind of shedding layers and kind of releasing all the external limitations and imprints that school, our families, friends put on us, and coming back to ourselves. So as children, it's different because I feel like at that age, they already know who they are. You know, they're so confident in themselves and they don't care. So it's almost about like, my approach would change in a sense that it's like helping them stay connected to their truth, helping them like not, you know, find what they're good at, stick to what they're good at, and not, you know, because in school, you go to school and everyone is taught the same subjects, regardless of maybe someone's really good at art or someone's really good at math. So like the way I would do it is like find what you're good at, what your strong things are, and like don't change, you know, like stay connected to that. Because at the end of the day, it's all about just coming back home to your true essence. And this is why I learn so much from children, like, because they're so like they don't care. Yeah.
Yes, I found about the children's. It's like when the iron is. You can mold the iron when it's in a heat, you know. So we can make any shape, whichever shape we want to make it. And they say, according to yoga, we have a pancha pranas. So the prana, udana, samana, okay, vyana. So udana is the vayu, which kids have it. So they are not too much in their mind. So we can shape them the way we want. Okay, that's the best part because they really don't know. So for example, if I take them in the diamond shop, okay, and I tell them that this is the $5,000 diamond example, and there is a chocolate, they don't know. They'll go for the chocolate, which is maybe $5. Okay, they don't know the difference with the $5 and 5,000. For them, that's most precious.
Yeah,
having that chocolate, they get the joy with that chocolate. They don't know the differentiate with it, and that's the perfect time to shape up their mind and shape up their intellect.
Yeah, because you don't have to. Yeah. You don't have to take away the beliefs. You're almost like helping them start their beliefs at a young age. So it's like now, as we're adults, we're kind of seeing which beliefs and opinions are actually ours, or they were like given to us from our family. But as children, they don't, you know, you're so fresh. So.
And then they're like, success is like when you have this kind of a money, you're successful. No, the successful, it's like how you are mentally, you are fit, physically, emotionally, energetically. That's the success for me, because eventually that matters a lot. The more rich people, they have more health problem eventually, you know, like. So what you want to do it. So for example, I literally found that because I used to teach lots of rich people, and whenever I go, they have a diabetes, they have a heart problem, and they can enjoy the best food in the world. They can afford it. But just imagine their body is not capable for it. So for me, that is success. So how you keep yourself physically fit, emotionally fit, mentally, you know, energetically fit, that's the success. So but most of the kids, even I didn't know about it, that success is like, oh, once I have own house, once I have a good job, you know, once I have one car, it's like minimum, like, you know, everybody, like I travel so much. Everybody, the success definition is with the materialistic world. But materialistic world, yes, I don't say it's not necessary. It's necessary, but that doesn't give the ultimate happiness.
I think it's been a long time since you could use the word success and it really meant anything. Anybody who's using that word by itself and isn't framing it as, you know, emotionally successful, financially, giving it some kind of context, it's just a weird, lazy word at this point that doesn't mean very much. But just before we jump off this thought, you just described, you know, the kids' minds being, you know, a perfect moment to kind of mold or impart a idea onto. What is the one way in which you could mold it, or the one idea you'd hope to put onto it at that time that you think that would have the largest benefit across their lifetime? What is the one thing you would hope to impart across that 2-week period that would actually help them the most, do you think?
So I feel it like that. I wish I would have to know this before, but yes, I got to know. So first, the kids should understand what is their nature of their mind.
Mm.
So what is mean first? What is the nature of the mind? So for example, recently I heard this such an interesting story. The Hitler, actually, he wants to be
Artist,
good in
yeah.
the art.
Yeah.
Yeah, artist. But then his dad and mom, they suppress
Yeah.
his, and he said, you cannot be artist. And then same guy became a destroyer.
Mm. Yeah.
You understand? So just imagine if his mom and dad would have to allow what is his nature of the mind, they would have to nurture that. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe the Second World War would have to not happen. This is an example. Okay. So there are many examples. So understand what is your nature of your mind. So for example, like I wish I would have to know this. I was very drawn to teach yoga because when I was 15 years old, I done my first 1 week course. And that day only I decided I want to be yoga teacher.
Mm.
But somehow with the yoga teacher, I don't know, you can earn the money and how this as a job is not a prestige job, especially I'm talking about 23 years back. Okay. But being a doctor, okay, being a architect or engineer, it's like in India especially, these are the trees like a top category. If you are there, you are like, professional and elegant, whatever, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah.
Yeah.
Then I just decide, and I wish, but then I also follow the same, whatever my mom and dad said. Then I did the graduation, I did BCom and I did MCom. And end of the day, I realized that I don't know, even sometimes I don't know the full form of the BCom. Obviously, I know the business of commerce, but why I done it? I wish I would have to invest my more time and energy to learn more Yoga Sutras, example, or more traditional, because end of the day, maybe I would have to go more deeper into the, obviously I'm doing right now, but it's just understanding the own nature of the mind is the most important. So for example, the kid is very good in the cricket or football. Okay. And then they are forced to do the studies.
Mm.
Some wants to be a artist. Okay. Somebody wants to be architect. So once you understand your nature of the mind and help them, guide them, assist them, and they can progress in that field. So one thing I want to do it, understand their nature of the mind.
No, I love that. And I'm sure Alina's got a thought too, but the one that's just come to my mind, I don't know if you've ever heard of this person. He was a famous British educational speaker of the last 20 years called Ken Robinson. I don't know if that name. Yeah. And he gave lots of good talks, particularly on TED about, how you should, to your point, Kranti, understand your own mind, understand the minds of children and kind of try and lift them up before you give them some other weird frame about what they should be doing. And he had an example that he gave about someone in a classroom who was very, very like fidgety. They would always be moving or like whatever. They couldn't really sit still. And it's very easy for a teacher or a head teacher or a parent to go, "I'll just sit still, stop fidgeting." Yeah. He goes, "No, well, that person, that they were a dancer from the inside out. They were always a dancer." And then this person went on to become, because of his prescience, a very good, English ballet dancer, but that was only because that person looked at that kid at that time with the right nature of mind in mind. They weren't seeing someone as doing something wrong. They saw someone with the potential to do something really right. That just wasn't sitting still in the classroom.
Oh, I love that example.
Yeah, that's really nice.
It's like you can't go against nature. And no matter how much you try, no matter how much you're like, no, I should be doing this because I'm going to make more money doing this. You're going to do it. And at some point, you're just going to realize that it's not your nature. So it's like you can always put a Band-Aid on it or you can always delay it. But it's like nature, you just can't go against nature. And as Kranti says, like the nature of our mind is there when we're children. And that's why children they act a certain way because they know the nature of their mind, but they're not taught to trust it. They're not taught to nurture it. And it also depends on, of course, like school. It depends on the guardian, you have to be around people who nurture you and support you as children. So that's the main thing is like, it's not about It's not about finding out what you're good at and of course, with training and practice, you can master something, but it's like, you just can't go against nature. And every single one of us, we have our nature, our true nature. So as a kid, it's so evident, it's so obvious what our true nature is, but we're just it's like this education system in so many countries just ignores it and treats every single kid as if they're the same. So that's why when we get older and we grow up, it's so hard to find out what we want to do or what we're good at, because we're just not taught to find the nature of our mind.
Yes. So just imagine like my nature of mind to teach yoga example, and somehow I'm accountant because I get the good money, whatever the salary, like people think, everybody has a different way. So for me, maybe I'm on $10,000 example. Yes. But the thing is, when I come back from my job, I'm more agitated, I'm frustrated, and I'm not happy. It's $10,000, but now I feel it that okay, maybe it doesn't matter. I have $1,000 example, but I'm more happy, I'm more content, and I'm more satisfied. That's end of the day, it matters for me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
And I think
understand of your mind.
Yeah, I think you're wise to raise the kind of the financial component in there too, because I think people are pretty good at suppressing their nature of mind or their joys initially, because they're like told by their parents and then told by society that if they're not going to make a career out of it, then it's not worth their time at all, which is completely untrue. You could be an accountant, for example, because it's a good stable profession you can do wherever, all over the world, and you can still use your free time to explore whatever that joy happens to be in a completely money ambivalent, completely detached way, and you'll be far, far happier. But I think we've lost that bit of kind of dilettantism where you just do something for the sake of being a passionate kind of amateur at it, and because you love it. But people are too busy going, oh, well, if I'm spending this much time doing this craft or hobby or interest, then I should be making money out of it. And that what money shouldn't come into it at all. Particularly if you're financially secure, you shouldn't be putting pressure on yourself. But I think that, that's another problem with society. Educational structures are old fashioned, and the pervasiveness of money as a thing you should be optimizing for is also massively, damaging.
Yeah. I just want to add something on what you just said, because it's, I don't think it's for everybody to make a career out of what they're passionate about or what there are. And I think as people who are right now making a career, maybe in the future it might change, I don't know, but it's like people are so scared to do something and fail at it and not be good at it, or like you said, because we attach it with money with success. But it's like there's that quote that's just create art for art's sake, and it's like it's not about, and it goes into the topic of, I said, it's not about the end goal, it's about just the process. And when you're creating something, or when you're finding out what you're good at, or finding out your new passions or something, you're gonna learn so much about yourself and bring so much fulfillment about yourself on the journey that it doesn't matter if you're going to make money off of it in the end. It can be perfectly fine if you have a job that maybe you're not passionate about, but that's bringing you security, but then still on the side exploring the nature of your mind and seeing, what you're good at, what brings you joy, peace. You want to add?
Yeah. And I feel that I wish that every parents that they teach us that we want more. We want car, we want a good house, but actually we don't need many things. Our basic need are very minimum, really, the shelter example, just the food, and just a little bit basic salary if you can get it, but that's actually need. But then they teach us that no, you should have this. You want, constantly you want.
It's capitalism.
Right? It's a capitalism that literally somehow being in a yoga, we say aparigraha. Aparigraha means nowadays people are storing unnecessary things. Okay. So constantly they're going out to search the happiness. They're going for a shopping constantly, but they think, for example, when I have a new iPhone, you think, oh, this phone is going to give you the happiness, but this phone gives the happiness just for a while. Or new car, Mercedes Benz, or whatever, the new house, everything gives for a while, and then later on you come back to your The truth is this: the happiness is inside, is not the
Mm.
outside. I wish they should give this knowledge also, what you really needed. The needs are very minimal.
Mm.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
also finding the
Yeah.
boundary between your needs and your desires.
Yeah.
Because it's perfectly fine. Some people desire to have more,
Yeah.
you know, but knowing that like their desires and their needs are two different things.
Yeah.
So like finding that boundary between them. And I know this is probably getting really off track, but it just made me, I just wanted to add that.
No, it's perfect.
Yeah, because it's like
Yeah.
some people desire to have a house and a car and have these, you know, the security, and there's nothing wrong with
There's
that.
nothing wrong.
But it's just about knowing that boundary between your desires and your needs, you know, and it's like as long as you have what you need, you know, you have shelter, you have food, you have yourself, you know, you have the self-assurance, you have your own body, your health. That's really all you need. The rest is just desires and things that come with time, and it doesn't define success.
The need is like, even the need is about mental peace, that they should add it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So these are the most important rather than, but nowadays somehow we emphasize we want more.
Yeah.
We constantly want. But we need also a couple of things, which is just few.
No.
We have to emphasize on that also. And having desire is not wrong. Only attaching to that desires is not good. Having desire is not a problem. But just imagine I have a desire about XYZ, and if I don't achieve it and I get frustrated, it's not good.
Yeah,
I have a desire. Yeah, if it happens along my way, it will happen. If not, it's not. You know, this is the way it should go.
Mm-hmm.
Something we've just touched on along there through talking about needs and desires and struggling to differentiate between the two is the idea of suffering. And I'm well aware that there's something kind of ironic about what I'm doing, where I'm obsessing so much about the positive power of having good self-assurance and good self-awareness. But so much of my suffering comes from attaching to the idea of myself, the idea of me having a self. So it's something that is a bit esoteric for the average podcast, but in light of the fact I'm talking to two, amazing experienced yoga practitioners who are aware that the self is something we kind of like create. It's not necessarily any more real than anything else. It's a figment of our imagination. I thought I'd just throw that in. Do you think that's bad, that I should be framing more of this around how you transcend from the idea of self, not become weirdly obsessed by it, trying to be more self-assured and self-aware?
I want to say one thing, because I feel like, Kranti, you're going to have a little bit of a deeper thing to say about this. So I'm going to start, and then you can piggyback off of it. But I just want to say one thing, and then Kranti can take the mic. But so basically, like, from what I got from your question is like trying to be this best version of yourself, whether it's like you're trying to reach like enlightenment, samadhi, or you're trying to be like healed of all your traumas or be the best developed version of yourself. That attachment to that is bringing us suffering. And I've experienced this a lot on my journeys, where, you know, it's like there's always going to be something to heal. There's always going to be something to change or to work on. And I like to tell myself a lot that I'm not this like endless self-development project that needs constant fixing. That's something that I tell myself a lot. And it's like, you know, you're never going to be at this perfect place. And even if you do reach a glimpse of like this bliss or this like enlightenment, at the end of the day, if you choose to stay in this human existence and if you choose to stay in society, then you're going to be met constantly with like that attachment to trying to you're not going to always forever be in this place of bliss, because that's just not how it works. So that's what I tell myself is like, I'm not this self-development project that constantly needs to be working or healing or fixing something. And that's come to me recently, because when I first started my path of spirituality and healing and whatever, I had a lot more suffering than benefit. And now it's about just having that compassion for yourself. And I'll just let Kranti now continue.
Yeah. So what I feel is that we constantly look for some goal. Okay. But when you look at just the rose, Rose doesn't have any goal to look beautiful. He doesn't have the goal, oh, everybody should appreciate me. Okay. They don't have any goal. They just blossom. Eh? We have to just enjoy this process, whatever is going on. Right now, if I'm a vulnerable, accept it, I'm a vulnerable. Eh? Oh, today I'm very mindful. Accept it, I'm very mindful. Okay, today I'm very self-awareness. Okay, I have it. And today I don't have awareness because many things flip from my, like my phone fall down, oh, maybe I'm not aware today. But that's nice, every day it's a different day. Okay. Every day brings some new hope, new adventure. Why we just don't surrender, enjoy the journey rather than destiny? Yeah, that's the way I feel it.
And what do you have anything to say about like what he was saying, how
Yeah.
ourself, like transcending the like superficial layer of ourself and like kind of like on a deeper level of like self-awareness, because we're much more than just this body, it's like this.
See, but I feel that we are the best at every moment.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. No, we are the best. Today, I'm the best version of the Kranti. 10 years back, when I look at it, that I was not that best, but that time that was my best. 10 years back. And 10 years back, even my version will be the different. Maybe I'll be a guru example. Okay, like that is my no. It's not a dream. But maybe I'll be a guru example. 10 years, but that is the best version of the Kranti.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think that's perfect. And it, in a way, this. No, go on, Kranti. Sorry.
And I found that the 10 years back, I found that I was not a good person, though I'm a yoga teacher, but I was not actually, okay, I'm telling this path, but I'm not walking on that my path on. But that's my own journey. And I enjoyed that also because I was not on that track. And when I come back to that track, and now I'm on this track and I'm walking myself, and I enjoy this also because I have the experience.
Yeah.
Being vulnerable and now being more stable. I have both experience.
Yeah. You can only give 100% of what you have at that moment. And some moments it's going to be 50% of what it normally is. But if you're giving 100% of what you have, then it's still like Kranti says, you're doing your best.
Yeah. No, and so much of this ties in again to a more kind of existential version of knowing what enough and your needs are, or what your expectations about your own kind of cognition and life. Again, this is all the wisdom of other people, so I'm not claiming it's my own. But it's like the particles and elements of our bodies were, made from the deaths of stars like billions of years ago, and all of the weird things that have to happen for any of the three of us to even be alive in the first place. So if you've had a moment's kind of laughing or smiling or breathing or seeing, you're in existential terms just about the luckiest thing that's ever happened. So if you have something like we've had, which is a relatively grateful, incredible life, with lots of friends and opportunities, then it's unbelievable to me. And people don't take that frame. They wake up and they think, oh, what can I get today? What can I buy today? They're ignoring this kind of existential context for their life, and cheating themselves out of a lot of joy and presence and awareness. So
I want to tell you that so many people come and they do one-on-one, and I just said to this, you just open Google it, that how many people are no more in this world today.
Yeah.
How many people are dying? Okay, just imagine you are still alive. Okay, is it not to celebrate this moment you are alive? And now just imagine you're alive. You never get a phone call that, oh, your mom something happened, your dad something happened, or they're still alive. So you have a double happiness to share it at, okay, around whoever I love, these people are alive. So yes, just 2 days back I got one message that one of my best friend, he's no more. Okay. And I know, and when I check that photo, this is the last photo with him. And now I cannot see that person again. Is it there are things in our life we can appreciate? Just imagine, there was one story I want to tell you here. So there was one guy, who was just about so frustrated and fed up with his life. He was bankrupt and blah, blah, blah. So he was just about to suicide. And there was one kind of a sadhu. He saw him, he's going to suicide. And he said, what you're doing? He said, oh, I'm so frustrated. I'm fed up. I have a bankrupt. I'm like so miserable at this moment. Only this is the solution. I just want to jump from the mountain. And he said, okay, wait. I have something for you. Then this guy brings to the king. Okay, there was a king. And he said, king, he's the guy. We donate his eyes and we give him 3 billion or $3,000. And he got shocked. No. I don't want to give my eyes to anybody. And then he realized that every part of your body, like we have it, like just imagine we have these beautiful eyes. We can see the world. We can see the color, the green color, the beauty of the nature. We can enjoy the food. We can move our hand. We can walk. There are many things we appreciate in our life, just simple things. Why we want to do big things? Like why your happiness is depend on either with somebody else or on the materialistic thing. Why you just cannot be happy at this moment.
Yeah. And this is something that definitely like is a practice, it's not, it's like, I can say it a lot and it's not until I really realize it myself. And just having the ability to just like listen to music or like see the nature around you and like eat really good food. And that's, I would say, is a practice that people can incorporate into their life daily, like mindfulness, just having that mindfulness of every single thing that they do and every time they incorporate all their senses. And this helps you not focus so much on the little things, because it's those things, those tiny little things that we put all of our energy and focus on that make us go crazy and take us away from this presence. So it's like I would say just mindfulness, the practice of mindfulness.
I saw many people, they are just in hurry to eat their food. They finish it. And I always say, this is the ceremony for me. And she knows very well. This is the ceremony for me. Because the end of the day, we all are, whatever work we are doing it, first to have a food. Yes. Even if you don't have a clothes, it's not a problem. But we need the food. We need the water. Okay. These are the basic things. And literally people are rushing, like they are just constantly, they're aspiring something which is not there. So they're constantly running from this moment. This is the moment. Enjoy this moment. Enjoy your food. Whatever, even enjoy your cacao, example. This small cup of coffee, you can enjoy it. Yeah, the simple things are more, I think so, it's more pleasurable for me than the big things, the happiness is in the small things.
Yeah, no, it just shows the unbelievable power of the perspectives you take. Because, to use Alina's mindfulness example, like a cheesy prompt I used to do with myself once I kind of engaged on a wiser level with this kind of existential thing is like the feeling, if I concentrate, the feeling I get when I tap my fingers together is like unbelievable. The fact that I can unite my two hands with my brain and I can kind of feel something there. Like instead of just seeing that as a kind of physical inevitability of being a human being, but instead as this weirdly amazing existential accident where I'm alive and I can do this. It's kind of, and that's just a perspective I've taken. It's anybody could take that perspective, and it's similarly to Kranti. I think you mentioned, the power of waking up in the morning and realizing you're alive. It's a Stoic philosophy thing where if you've got a child, you'd be best meditating on the fact that the child might not wake up in the morning, despite the fact it would be the worst thing in your life. When they do, more often than not, you see it as this unbelievable treat and a gift, and you should apply that lens to yourself. When you groggily kind of like, brush your eyes and wake up in the morning, instead of being like, oh, another day, it's just be like, oh yes, I'm alive, and see it as a gift instead, and these are just frames, different ways of looking at the same course of time.
Yeah. And I really found it that when you really go, what is your nature of your mind? That for me, there is never a Monday. Every day is a Sunday for me.
Yeah.
Every day is a Sunday. There is no Monday. Why there
Yeah.
is a Monday? Why people have a concept that they have to work?
Yeah. Yeah.
And why looking forward for the weekends? For me, every day is a Saturday, Sunday. Sometimes I feel that every day is a Saturday, Sunday.
No, I'm
So
completely the same. Actually, weirdly, it's weird you mentioned that on this on the journal thing I showed you earlier that I've created this digital journal. One of the pages gives you what unique number, unique day in your life you're experiencing today. So mine is like my 11,800 something day. And that tries to help me think of it as another Wednesday or another whatever day. It's a weirdly unique day today.
I really don't know. Like today, I was telling Alina today is Tuesday, and she said me that today is Wednesday. Literally, I don't know what day is it also.
Yeah, I mean, you can even go so deep
Yeah.
with this, like thinking about it, time, obviously.
Yeah.
Like all of this is just like, it's made up stuff. It's not like, it's just stuff to put order and structure into our life. And of course, like as a part of society, we have to live by these structures, of course, but it's not like, these little structures, we put ourselves in boxes when we attach so much to these things. So it's just about like you said, looking at things from another perspective. Like I like to say, looking at things with like a new pair of glasses or like a new set of eyes. Because it's just like, when you like clean your glasses, or you can kind of see things for what they really are, rather than like what our mind thinks they are. And it's like you said, it's a gift, it's a blessing just to even be here and just to even experience the beauty of that life has to offer. So when you take effort every day to remind yourself of that, it becomes more natural.
Yeah.
So one of the I just went, and it was really nicely written. Don't think out of the box. Just remove that box.
Remove the box.
Yeah.
I like that.
I really like that. Why you want
Why
to
is
think
there
out
a
of
box
the bag?
first?
In that box
Just
also.
think.
Yeah. No, that's nice. That's nice. That's a good.
Just think
that's a good hack.
freely. Yeah.
Life is more like you have to enjoy every moment. It should be playful. Why you have to be serious in your life? You just be sincere in your life, rather than be serious. Serious, like the Osho always say, serious means when you're in the hospital, guys. Somebody's serious in the hospital. Be sincere whatever you do, and just be playful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sing, dance, enjoy.
Yeah.
No,
another thought that's come to mind, which I could really only volunteer on this podcast versus the average less spiritual and self-aware minded one, is that do you reckon it would be possible to this idea of just taking certain perspectives, just being playful, don't worry about the box, just think? Do you reckon it would ever be possible from a child to, your older life to never trap yourself with certain ideas about, self or having certain expectations or whatever? Or is that a necessary thing that you have to go through and experience to then transcend it? Can you ever live a life, do you reckon, that is completely detached from these ideas? Or do you reckon it's the more valuable thing is to, be born, then realize it comes, have some idea of yourself and then transcend it in some really powerful, thoughtful manner? Is it possible to do the other? Do you think?
I think it is. No, sorry. So I just finished because I'll forget it for sure.
You have a thought.
So what Patanjali said, that Atha Yoga Anushasanam, means now yoga discipline starts. Means you can change it at any moment, any time. Richard, you can change it now. You don't have to wait, and you don't have to think, I wasted my 40 years example. Just imagine, maybe 40 years I'm going to live more, but at least 40 years I have it to live with more awareness, more alertness. There's one story I want to tell you. The Osho story. Osho got very famous, in his journey. And suddenly he goes to his own village. And when he goes to his own village, he goes to his own teacher who was teaching him. And he went there, and obviously teacher appreciate that, you are a very famous person right now, blah, blah, blah. And then he's talking a little bit about some knowledge, the spiritual knowledge Osho was talking. And the teacher said, can I tell you, Osho, don't come tomorrow, please. Eh? Whatever I was believing right now, you just change my beliefs. Okay. All the beliefs has changed in like half an hour with your discourse or with your conversation. Please don't come tomorrow. Then Osho said, no, till I am here, I'm going to come every day. Now you were not aware, but now whatever the life is left, bring that awareness, bring that alertness.
Yeah,
Okay, bring that
Yeah.
mindfulness, which Alina is saying, at least now. So I feel it that it's never late. Right? You can start this journey at any time, any moment. That's it. Just
Yeah.
start now.
Yeah.
That's most important.
I don't think, well, but to go off like your question, like no, it was amazing.
Yeah.
But just to say, like, I think what Kranti's saying is it's never
Yeah.
late, and
Yeah.
there's always the opportunity to do it. But I do think, if like children have so much power, so if it started at a young age, then it would be easier as when you get older to continue on that path. Like, I don't think it's necessary to, but I think at some point, no matter what, children are going to have to transcend some, like, you know, when you get older, you have to transcend some beliefs. You're going to get beliefs no matter what. As a kid, your parents, your friends, going to school, society
Yeah,
puts all
yeah.
of it on you. You pick it up. So no matter what, but I do think it will make things more natural and more easier if kids, as kids, are raised in a way or taught in a way that make them not question their true nature, their essence, their nature of their mind. So it becomes a little bit easier along the path. But as Kranti says, it's never too late. And I think
never too late.
it's actually more it is really profound when you're in like an adult life, and it's like you kind of have that theoretical death rebirth cycle, you know, because it's like a piece of you kind of dies so that like you're reborn in a way. And I don't think either is like right or wrong, and they're both powerful. But
no,
yeah.
I think you're both spot on, and particularly the thought of, you know, you're going to get beliefs anyway, you know. So even if our society at large was, you know, 10x more aware and virtuous than it is right now, you're still going to go through a weird journey where you adopt some behaviors because that's what you've been told and been demonstrated, but then you're still going to transition back to having that sense of self-investment and awareness that is deeper than just copying and, you know, just being taught. That is still a transition of itself. It's still a bit of transcendence. So, you know, I never thought about it in that way until you both framed it kind of as such. So it was worth asking such a long-winded and slightly random question. You know, you've both described that your self-awareness and self-assurance has, you know, improved over time. How much of your engagement and you know, your life evolving around yoga is responsible for that growth, do you think? Or is it a bit yoga and a bit something distinct from yoga? Or is this the thing that's driving your improvement day to day with self-awareness and self-assurance?
Well, for me, I think like finding this practice was definitely like the kickstart. Like, I think without, you know, without finding this practice, and I was really lucky to find it at a young age, you know, so it's like so I think for me, it was like right away off the bat, what kind of brought me to that space. And, you know, and I talk about how like the body and getting out of my mind and into my body, which is really powerful for me. So it started more as like that kind of practice where I got myself out of the mental space and into the somatic, the physical space, to really feel what I was experiencing. And then over time, you know, with all the practices and with more experience, and then once I started teaching, yeah, I definitely would say that, like, I don't think I would be on this path or this point in my journey without the practices that I've gained through yoga, and not just physical, you know, everything that brings me to that sense of like pure observing, like coming back, because yoga really is just like union. It's just coming back to your truth and coming back to your core. So for me, I can confidently say yes. then I'm really blessed and grateful for the practice. And that's why I share from my experience. Yeah.
I also feel blessed that at a very young age, I always had the curiosity about, being in Indian, born in India, we already know about moksha. Okay, what is moksha? And I was very curious about what is moksha. And being a child, I think so, I did lots of religious practices, lots of like going to the temple, chanting the mantras, I did a lot. But then when I come to the yoga, then I understood that religious practice for a certain level, it's nice to have it, but eventually you have to bring the union in your body and mind. That's the most important. And that I got to know because of yoga.
Yeah.
I just feel blessed being I'm in this journey. Age of 15, I started. Then I started this revolution first within me. I started changing myself, because you cannot change the outside world. Even even Rumi said that I was clever. I want to change the world, but now I'm wise. I changed myself.
Myself, yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. I've heard that before.
And I really like it that you can only bring the change first within you, and then you can share your experience. You cannot force the others to bring these changes. And I found it, apart from yoga, also for me, the ayahuasca ceremony helped me a lot.
Yes, yeah.
So that's one of the biggest journey I had it, the ayahuasca. And Vedanta study, literally, because sincerely I follow the Vedanta practice. Vedanta means is the knowledge, like 5,000 years back, how you can use your own intellect, because using your intellect is the most amazing path. Even I started having these lectures once in a week, 2008, but the many times that still I didn't have the ability to use my own intellect. Okay, because sometimes your mind, your desires are so overpower you, you forget to use your own intellect. But now I'm more aware, more alert to use my intellect. So whenever any decision, any situation comes, I like to analyze, okay, what are the consequences, which I was not doing it in the beginning. But that happened because of the Vedanta study. So all these practices, and obviously the Osho is one of the best, one of the
Osho
amazing. I'm the Osho lover. He literally, he made me. So whatever my beliefs are there, he literally destroyed my beliefs, and he started thinking he always say, flip the coin. We know only the one side. Flip the coin. You should know the other side also. So now, whatever things I'm doing it, so I have to know the other side. That the other side, I think so, Osho has developed in me to flip the coin, and I enjoy that part. And overall, all is beautiful. Like, I'm enjoying this journey, and I still feel I'm the student of the lifelong.
Always.
Especially when I teach. It gets more penetrate in me, because I ask this question to myself, really I'm following? And see, nobody's going to see, Richard, you don't care about it, what time I wake up. Alina don't care what time I wake up. Okay. So it's only for me. What time I wake up. Do I am honest with my own studies or with my own practices? Because many times the discipline brings the freedom. So sometimes having so much freedom can also destroy you. Because you can do whatever you want. But no, discipline is the most important key.
Discipline and self-accountability. And that's why, and that's why self-assurance, when we talk about self-assurance, I think a lot about self-accountability, because at the end of the day, no one is gonna hold you accountable more than you can hold yourself accountable. And it's like, I can go tell everybody that I'm up every day at 6 a.m. and I do my practice every morning at 6 a.m. But it's like, no one really cares. It's not going to change their life. It's going to change my life. I think self-accountability is really important. And I found a lot of self-accountability discipline. A lot of that came to me through yoga, and it started as a physical practice, but then it transformed beyond that in so many different ways. And it's something that, as Kranti said, it's like, as a teacher, you're always a student first.
Yeah,
And it's like I can only teach from experience. And if I'm teaching something and if I'm not following it, then we're just preaching. We're not actually doing it.
yeah. I think
And there's a lot.
you
Yeah.
probably both appreciate a quote from the previous podcast from, again, these music teacher performers. One of them had a quote that had been embossed into a notebook, which had been shared with their school network and stuff. Never let being a teacher stop you from being a student. You know, it was just that kind of overriding lifelong learning thought that just came to mind. But the biggest thing I want to touch on in terms of yoga contributing to your overall improvements in self-awareness and self-assurance is that kind of physical component. Because again, when I was a couple of weeks ago trying to think about what my definition for these things were, I would then look at, lots of other definitions of self-awareness, and lots of them were obsessed with the mental and emotional parts of mind and your passions and motivations and blah, 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 blah. But I'm like, there's never really any mention of the physical. But I'm like, when did the physical stop being part of your overall something that could represent your overall awareness of yourself? And you've both just flagged how important the physical component is to what's helped you.
Yeah, like for me, in my experience, and for me, the physical component was really huge because it's like, it's not about only the physical. Like, I'm not saying you have to be really strong in your practice, but someone who as a kid had a lot of anxiety and, a hard time regulating my nervous system and my emotions, I found that I spent more than half of my energy and my time in my head. And I think our body is a vessel, it's a tool, it's like a machine. So when we tap into the body, we tap into that physical vessel, we're able to control our emotions, we're able to control our thoughts, we're able to actually see what's going on rather than using our logical mind to kind of rationalize it or like make decisions. And I think our body is a pathway to our intuition, it's a pathway to our divinity. And for me, like finding that release through somatic practices helped me get out of the mental space a lot and more into the other bodies, like the emotional body, the spiritual body, energetic body. And I found that for me through the physical body in my experience, it's what helped me a lot.
In Hatha Pratipika, they say that, I really like that. In healthy body, healthy mind can stay.
Yes. Healthy body, healthy mind.
No, I like
Just
that.
I have lots of ache and pains. Okay, my physical body is not in a good condition. Obviously, emotionally, I get disturbed. I get mentally disturbed. Energetic, I get disturbed. And spiritually also, I get disturbed because just imagine I want to sit for meditation for 1 hour and constantly there is a pain in my back and knee. I cannot focus. So in healthy body, healthy mind stays.
Healthy body, healthy mind. And our body eavesdrops on our thoughts and our emotions. Yeah. So it's like it's also healthy body mind, healthy. So it's like, exactly. That's a really good book. And it's all connected. There's one side of the spectrum and the other side of the spectrum. So it's like, you can't have one without the other. You can't just nourish your spiritual body and your mental body without actually nourishing your physical body, and vice versa. You can't just focus on your physical body without focusing on your mental, emotional, spiritual, energetic. So it's all like a
and like you say, it's not a game of who's got the best practice or who's got the best body. It's using the practice to be more aware of your of how it works, whether it's at, level 1 or level 100. It's that awareness piece is the transcendent thing. And if you can get more cathartic or personal value from really improving it, then that's great. But it's the awareness thing that counts the most. So like, I was amazed to see it never crop up in any definition of self-awareness, that physical piece. I thought it was a real oversight.
Yeah.
Which is why I've crammed it into my own, as a means of stress test.
Your definition is going to be really long. It's going to be a paragraph now.
Oh, yeah, no, it already is quite long. I'll read it to you, and you can tell me whether you think this is too long. So, like, my definition even of like peak self-awareness, peak kind of practical self-awareness, is the consistent, positive, and practical application of genuine self-understanding regarding your present physical, technical, mental, and emotional condition, and how each can be best improved over time. In the thing I've just read from, it's the start of a little article that kind of breaks down those different bits, and again tries to focus on it as a practical definition with different ideas that you can use as a checklist or a reference points for how you get your self-awareness from where it is now to how it can improve and be more valuable to you over time. But it's a bit of a mouthful. And I may change it to some degree, but I think that at least kind of captures a large part of what I think is valuable about self-awareness. It has to be with you. If at its best, it has to be with you all of the time. A bit like Kranti, how you just described, you like to refer to your intellect more. And like, I saw your framing of the word intellect as representing kind of peak self-awareness. Is like, I understand myself here and I'm going to make the best decision or reaction possible. I'm not going to not do that. It's there with you at the very moment that something is happening. And similarly with the positive and practical pieces, something we've explored in other podcasts is that people have found as they become more self-aware, particularly about the things they can or cannot do, if they find out things they can't do, then their self-awareness, self-assurance suffers. But, your self-awareness should serve to make your life more healthy and happy, and not seeing your ignorance or the gaps in your life as kind of issues, so like there's all of these different components of the definition, albeit a long one, are like there to offer insight into how it can get better. And I think it's a bit long
for every person. And I think having self-awareness comes with your own practice. Like I can say, this is what I do. This is what Kranti does. But it's like at the end of the day, that's not going to work for everybody. And everybody has their, there for sure is like questions you can ask yourself. There is guidance and tools, but it's about finding what works for you. Like we said, finding your nature and continuing on that path and giving that practice more of your energy. And through that is where you can find what works and what doesn't. So
and on the physical piece again, I always make a mess of this quote, but it's like you can't think your way out of something you act your way into. We always think that, okay, well, if I'm doing something that I don't like, I need to like look at it and think about it with my rational, conscious brain. And it's like, well, no, sometimes you just need to act differently. You just need the physical thing needs to be different, which I think is poignant.
So I like to share my stories a little bit longer, but I like to make it short.
It works perfect for this format. Don't worry at all.
So before 2018, I was also in that rat cycle. You like materialistic things. If you have a rat race, yes, thank you for that. So it's constantly like, if I have a house, I'll be happy. If I have this much bank balance, I'll be secure. Exactly, I was in that cycle, and then one point, I just don't know, like I opened a yoga business and somehow it didn't run properly and I have lots of debts. And one day I just sat with myself that, Kranti, why you are running? For what? You are a single person. How much money you really needed, then how much money you want? So that's my want and need was not clear because of the society. I want one house, then one land, or maybe my own yoga school, and that want was constantly increasing. And then that's the period 2014 I opened the business and it didn't run. And then I had so much stress as a yoga teacher, though I tell people that not to have a stress. When you have a stress, what happens? Your internal organs get, not work function properly, your reproduction organs, your digestion get messed up and blah, blah, blah. But as a teacher, I was constantly in a stress because I was working so hard, literally hard, like 11 hours a day. And whatever I earn, I have to give it as a rent. So long story short, my partner asked me that, Kranti, you like to run the second year? I said, no, I don't want to run because I don't want to do anything with the stress. It's not good for my health. And I started having the back problem. Being a yoga teacher, like I started having on my back problem. Then 2018, I just decided I just want to travel because I heard lots of stories. People are traveling without money and blah, blah, blah. But I never trusted. It's not possible. How people can travel without money? It's not possible. But then I just decided, I'm going to have a faith to the universe. Universe is going to take my care. And literally, this is the way it happens. I went to one of my friend, actually, she's my student also, and she was doing yoga 2 years with me when she was in India. She's actually from US. So she was in US and I went to meet her and I helped her. I was taking care of her kids. Then she gave me $500. Kranti, you keep it. I know you're traveling without money. And then the way I started keeping the trust on the universe, literally it fall in place. Then I went to Colombia. I got a job to teach in the prison, actually. But that job somehow got canceled at the last minute. And I said, no, because sorry, I don't have money. And you already promised me 2.5 months, you're going to give me the accommodation. And then she said, Kranti, still you are welcome. And then I went there. And after 1 week, I did my first ayahuasca journey. And many things I got it that I was carrying the stress all on my body. First ceremony, it released. And second, everything is started. It's like a onion. When you start peeling it, when you start peeling that onion, you go deeper. Yeah. And then I started going more deeper. And I understanding that my own self, my own awareness. And actually, I don't need many things. I can just be happy even without nothing, because happiness is inside, it's not with the outside things, So these are the things started opening up. And now I just keep the trust and faith on the universe, and universe is really taking care of me. And I'm having a beautiful journey, and I really feel blessed at this moment. And my happiness and my bliss is at this moment, not in the future. Okay. Yeah. That's the way. And then one story I want to tell you, the last. So the way I was traveling and all. So I met one of my students' mother, and she met me in 2018, and I told her the story. I keep the faith on the universe. Universe is taking care of me. And it literally happened. In Colombia, I went without any expectation. And I got one girl for teachers training course. I did 30-day challenge. I did cooking workshop, which I never thought about it. I'm going to do the cooking workshop because Alina knows that is one of the best thing I have it in me, that I'm so creative in my cooking. But I had my cooking classes, and in the restaurant that India, my dish was there, which is like, I'm so happy that dish is there. And then she asked me that, Kranti, what do you think? What is your future after 5 years? And I just told her that my future is so bright, I cannot see nothing. And I really don't want to see my future. I just want to enjoy this moment, at this moment, right now, my peace, my happiness, or even like whatever situation is at this. Even sometimes I get emotionally vulnerable, but this is now. It's fine because nothing is permanent. Even this happiness is not going to be permanent. Emotional imbalance is not going to be permanent. Everything is going to eventually change. Yeah. And I want to focus what is not going to change.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's two perfect stories. Yeah, I love that. What stories could you share from your space in the world that speak to where we are as a society with self-assurance and self-awareness? Does anything come to mind? Don't worry if something doesn't immediately.
Yeah, I mean, like the one thing I think that would come to mind right away is just like for COVID. When COVID happened, it's obvious. It's like really, it was really horrible and scary at that moment because no one knew what was going to happen. But I also think it brought a lot of beautiful change in a lot of people's lives. And I'm speaking for myself in particular. Like I changed so much of the course of my life when in that year alone, because I was met with this complete presence to just experience, what am I feeling? What is happening? I realized that it's not so much about what my life is looking like or what's happening. It's more about, what I feel like, what are my desires from here on out. And I think COVID, for example, for me, like I was still in school before, and then I had graduated from college like right before COVID, and that was when I kind of decided to start traveling and teaching full time, because I was teaching in the US still, and then I decided to like make it I was like, let me get out of my comfort zone, because I always knew I wanted to travel and teach. And then I took that leap that year, and as Kranti says, just that year so many things came to me. Like I got opportunities to teach in places I never thought I would be able to do, and then I started getting jobs, paid opportunities. I started living in places I never thought I would have ever lived had I not just initially made that first leap of faith. And it came from that self-awareness, realizing that, okay, something needs to change. Like I want to be happier. I want to live a life that's more authentic to me. And then, yeah, through that place, and also having just trust and faith in the universe and God, and trusting that everything that's going to happen, like this is what I believe, but I think everything is already in a way written, like no matter how much I try to, of course I have the ability and the action to change things and go after things, but things are always going to happen the way that they're meant to happen, no matter how much control or grip I hold on to things. And I realized that these past 2-3 years, as I made that leap to kind of just like go after what I want. And it hasn't always been easy. And even sometimes I still question it. But at the end of the day, it's like, I know I have clarity on like what I want and what I need. And like, and, and it makes it easier having that clarity and that faith and just like trust. And
well, the fact that it's been not easy, like, it sort of feels comparable to Kranti's stories in a way that, when you were being offered free accommodation but no ability to teach classes at this Colombian prison, a version of you from the past would have, not wanted to contend with that idea at all. It wasn't running, it wasn't making money and whatever, but the peace afforded in that moment and the difficulty of having to cope with it and make sense of it will have then transcended and impacted a load of other circumstances and perspectives in such a positive way. So yeah, definitely, if that's an indication for anybody that they should lean into peace, lean into the difficulty of situations, because you never know when they're going to become transcendent things in other spaces. It's definitely two nice somewhat comparable stories there. But yeah, just to check in with probably the last kind of spinal kind of question, and it's low key my favorite one that I ask to anybody. Could you share a technique or activity that someone could try to either dramatically or incrementally improve their self-awareness or self-assurance?
So I'm going to start, and this is for like people, because there's like I can name so many practices and so many meditations and things, but for someone who's like starting off and it's like really scary and intimidating to kind of, I would say for me, like what helps me a lot is just like journaling and writing things down, because a lot of the time everything stays in our head, and it's really nice to just get it out onto paper. So this is like the one thing I would recommend for someone who has no idea where to start, and they might be thinking, oh well, what do I write about? And it's just like literally taking the thoughts from your head and putting them onto paper, so that way you can see what you're thinking about, and it's not there anymore. Now it's in front of you and it's on paper. And that's like, I would say, the first and probably most clear way to get that awareness. Of course there's like deeper ways, but I think that's the first thing that came to mind, and that was the first practice that I started, aside from like yoga and meditation, was to just journal and write things down and get things from my head and onto paper.
Yeah, no, I love that.
for me, I would like to tell you that in Granthas, they mention, I thoroughly apply in my own life, Chale Vayu Chalam Chittam Nishalam Nishalam Bhavet Yogistanu Vapnoti Tatho Vayu Nirodhe. Means how the wind is moving constantly, our mind is constantly is moving. Okay, constantly, like, right now I am in Peru, but you don't know where is my mind. Maybe you're where you are in Argentina, na?
Yeah, Buenos Aires, yeah.
Okay, but you don't know where's your mind right now. No, Alina's also, obviously, now we are here. Our mind, I believe we are all are here, but it's not guarantee. It's not a guarantee. So the mind is constantly moving. Mind, it's like if you tell something, don't do it, we like to do it. But the sages got invented that controlling mind is the most difficult task. But if you control your breath, you can control your mind easily. You can control the activity of your mind easily. So I like to suggest to control the activity of your mind. If you can control your breath, you can control the activity of your mind. So I like to highly recommend that focus on your breath, because the breath is so powerful. And Osho also says, if you change your breath, you can change your mind. And if you change your mind, you can change your life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if you want to change your life, focus on your breath. So maybe you can just do a simple activity of the breath. And I really highly recommend you. The last time there was one student who told me one app, Breath is app. And there's a gong, like you inhale in 4 counts and exhale in, it depends. You can exhale. Either you can follow 1:1.5, means inhale in 4 seconds, exhale in 6, or 1:2 ratio is ideal. Inhale in 4 and exhale in 6. So you can literally put according to whichever capacity you are. In the beginning, you can go with the 1:1.5 ratio. Then eventually you can go for 1:2. Even you can inhale in 4 and exhale in 8. But when you master in that, you can inhale in 5 and exhale in 10. And that gong is really helps to inhale and exhale. And nowadays I do it 10 minutes at least, just the breathing, and I do the holding pranayama 10 minutes. So I do a little bit pranayama practices. I know how it helps, right? Scientifically and spiritually and mentally, how it's going to help me a lot. Because end of the day, controlling the activity of the mind is the most important part.
Yeah.
Because when your mind, there are so many thoughts are constantly there. There is no space. Okay.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more.
Getting that space
Just
constantly. Yeah.
just to pick that apart for the help of those listening, is that a nasal inhale, mouth exhale, or is it both in and out on the mouth, in and out on the nose?
So I like to highly recommend you first inhale with the nose and exhale with the nose.
Okay.
But if you have some traumas, okay, that time exhaling through the mouth, it really helps.
Okay.
Okay. But highly I recommend you in the beginning, maybe you can, but eventually you have to start, because nose is meant for inhale and exhale. And mouth is meant to talk and eat the food. Okay?
Yeah.
But obviously, I understand there are many activities really helps if there are so many traumas, because you hold it in your hara chakra, which is in Japanese, they place a hara chakra, which is hold it. And that time, exhaling with the mouth, it really helps. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I knew very little about breathwork before the start of this year, but read a book when we first started traveling called, I'm going to forget what it's called, but it's written by a lovely Scottish bloke called Stuart Sandeman, who had a very traumatic event. His girlfriend died of cancer, and his mum took him to a breath work session, and he was very skeptical. But then from that point, found it, transcendently helpful, and has learned as much as he can and is sharing it with loads of people. And I don't think people appreciate that anywhere near enough. It's, again, like we touched on earlier, people think that the only way they can change their life or mind is by rationally using their conscious mind to try and think about things differently. How about you try sitting still and breathing for 2 minutes, in and out?
And also,
And also like the breath, the pranayama, and like asana, which is the physical practice. Those two practices really take us from the well, it depends which type, but using pranayama, it takes us from the sympathetic nervous system to the parasympathetic nervous system, depending on which type of of course. But like if you're doing that slow breath, like you're coming into that parasympathetic nervous system, which is that place of rest and digest, telling you that you're safe, that you're able to like let go of your guard and to just relax. And I think the problem is that so many of the times we're just so often in that sympathetic nervous system, just ready to like fight, ready to go. And that's like we're always just using our rational mind. So when you use pranayama to slow down your breath, slow down the mind, you're able to come into that parasympathetic nervous system. And when you're in that place of rest and digest, it's way easier to observe what thoughts you're hearing, what emotions you're feeling, because you're safe, you're calm. You're at peace.
And it's
one thing I like to add. Sorry.
I
want to really add that in case whenever this for me, I'm still learning it. So if something happens with me and Alina, okay, when I get some clash with her, I have to take a pause. I should, rather than reacting, I should really not to react on that situation. Wait one day, at least 24 hours, and then automatically that reaction convert into the response. And that I'm still struggling. Okay, I really want to say this. I don't want, because as I said to you, sometimes saying is so easy things, but following sometimes is really tough. But now I'm very mindful. So one episode happened, and then I wrote her one message, and I just thought I would have to wait more 8 hours. The same message would have to be different. Same message would have to be different. So I like to highly recommend people, whenever you are in this kind of a situation, wait 24 hours. Right? Because when your breath is changing, your thoughts are changing. As I said to you, that breath is very important. So try not to react on the situation, and you will sure after 24 hours, it depends on the situation, or maybe sometimes it's 48 hours or 72 hours, but you're going to respond for sure. You create space. Yes, you create a space, action. Respond, not like,
And as a tie back to something we discussed earlier, I did wonder when I asked you about creating the 2-week yoga course for the kids that were 5 and 10, whether you were going to say, we do more breath work because it's such a good tool for hacking your mind and feeling calmer, etc. And I've got a lovely Instagram video that I sometimes watch just because it's very sweet, of this 6-year-old boy with his 3-year-old brother, making him calm down by holding his hands and helping him breathe. Because he knew that he'd been given the tool that if he can control his breath, he can control how he feels. And he was passing this down to his little toddler brother.
Yes. Okay, I like to end this session with Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu chant, because we all human beings actually have the problem with our mind. Just imagine, we just take out the mind out. We don't have a problem, huh? We don't have a problem. So let's have the peace with everybody, and with everybody, like with her, I should have a peace. And let's not to be in this mind, not to be in this thought constantly, which giving us constantly problem. So Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavanti, all human beings should have a peace and happiness. Okay. So let's say, and we just say 3 times Om Shanti. Okay. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste, and thank you so much.
Namaste.
Thank you. That was lovely. That was really, really lovely. You can tell you've done that before.